And now, joining Andy and Ari On3 is Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko. Coach, how are you doing today? It's a pretty hectic day, so I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I'm relaxed now. Everything's in, the papers are in, and so it's a much better time of the day right now than it was 24 hours ago.
What is that feeling like when the papers are in, when it's all over?
Yeah, it's probably the biggest feeling of relief you can have. You know, you put 12 plus months into recruiting a class. You know, everybody knows the final 72 hours are always insane. And, when the paper finally comes through and he's officially an Aggie, it's just a tremendous amount of relief.
You know, the first year at Texas A&M for you, I would say, was a resounding success. Obviously, the way things went in College Station last week, you probably would have liked to change a little bit, but being one win away from the SEC championship game, kind of normalizing and stabilizing a program that was kind of tumultuous at times before you got there. How would you say you did in your first year? And, are you happy with it?
Yeah, I think big picture CEO of Texas A&M football, thrilled. I think we've put this program back on a course, aiming for where it's supposed to be, which I believe is the premier program in the country. I think we've righted the ship. I think we've established a foundation and a culture for what Texas A&M football should be. Obviously, the football coach in me is still disappointed that we didn't finish. We had an opportunity to put ourselves in a position to go to Atlanta, and unfortunately we didn't do it. But I think when you see the young men that were able to get in board today, the excitement in and around the program, in future classes, I think people understand the trajectory of this program and where it's headed, and it's headed in a phenomenal direction.
Coach, the one thing that you could say or was true about A&M in the previous regimes, and you were a part of signing the greatest recruiting class on paper in the history of recruiting, is that, A&M acquires really good talent at a very high clip. And that's the reason why they should be and are considered a national championship contender year in and year out. To go out in your first full cycle there at A&M and to pick up 8 players ranked in the top 150 in the On3 rankings, how do you feel you did as a talent accumulator, and how much percentage of the job's even done now with the portal opening next week?
Yeah, I think, first of all, there's a couple of things on that. One, we're blessed. We have a phenomenal university. We have great support. We have a great fan base. We have great facilities. And so we have a natural draw to Texas A&M for elite level recruits. We're in a hotbed of talent here in the state of Texas, and we've got access to a lot of different states across the country. And so from that perspective, we have the ability and the access to bring in really talented players. I think the challenge we have, and the thing that I've challenged our staff with, is making sure that we're bringing in the right players. And I think it's easy to find, sometimes talented players that maybe don't project to be future NFL players. And I think that's the biggest challenge we have is, we've got to find kids that want to develop and want to become really good NFL football players. And I think that's our path to success here at Texas A&M, and making this a program that doesn't get talked about being able to compete for championships, but actually goes out there and does it.
That seems to be the biggest, flip, right? Like, it goes from being a team that gets enough good players and a team that, spends enough money in NIL and has the resource and all those things to actually doing it. And you guys came close to actually doing it this year. But from your perspective, what do you think is the biggest change or the biggest, maturation point that needs to occur within your program to go from the potential to do it to actually doing it?
Yeah, I think, and this is what I told our guys, we had to lay such a strong foundation of what college football culture should look like, what it should look like from an accountability standpoint, from a doing things the right way standpoint, from a commitment to doing things for the team standpoint. Now what we've got to do is we've got to go out and become really good football players, and second year in the system, second year in the schemes, having an opportunity to really fine tune the details of what we're doing and how we're doing it, I think is going to be really critical. And so we're excited to move this thing forward and get into year 2 and, kind of finish the deal on what we started this year.
Sort of drop in late, Coach, but I'm curious, how do you balance the culture aspect with the talent aspect? Because obviously you want players who fit what you do, who fit in with your team, but they've got to be badasses on the field. How do you handle that as you're learning about these guys through the process?
I just think I want guys that are driven. Again, I keep saying this, and I don't mean to be repetitive, but like I want guys that are driven to be great at football, and then like that to me is the character I'm looking for. And that sometimes that's not necessarily a choir boy, right? Sometimes that's a kid who's got an edge, and you don't always feel great about the decisions he's going to make, but he's committed to being really good at football. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's one of the things that you really have to sort through in this day and age, which is who wants to come to your school to be a great football player versus who wants to come to your school to collect NIL checks and, maybe not challenge themselves to become what they're capable of becoming.
Coach, when you look at the place that at Texas A&M is, and, my wife went there and I saw my first game on Saturday in Kyle Field, and it is really the only place like it, right? And you talk about culture and fitting into the culture. Do the players that you're going after have to illustrate or have to be a certain way to fit into that culture before you take them? Or do you have to mold them into that culture? Like that always seems to be like the push and pull with recruiting, right? It's like, do you take a kid who's super talented but might not fit into that and fix that fit? Or do you need to have that fit from the beginning?
Yeah, I guess I would flip it to you and maybe just make an analogy, right? If you had a young intern who had talent and was really committed to being great at studying recruiting and studying the market and becoming a real reporter versus a kid who had talent and, really just wanted to work it on three, but didn't really care about how good he ever became at it, right? Like that's the difference. I think you're just trying to sort through like what motivates kid, what drives kids, and what are they trying to get accomplished in their process in college. And I think that's more than anything, that's what we talk about when we talk about culture. I don't think it's this like cookie cutter kid who fits Aggie lore. I think all of that just kind of grows over time. I think it's who is committed to becoming really good in life, right? And in some way. And that shows itself differently for 17-year-olds, right? Not all of them are completely ready, but I do think you can see the ones who aren't.
But that's got to be really frustrating, right, Andy? Like to think about like, what if there was an intern at On3 who was the best writer you've ever seen?
Yep.
Or the best column writer you've ever seen. And
I've worked with those people, though. I think Mike's exactly right about this. Like, I go back to when I worked at Sports Illustrated, and some of the people who came through who showed flashes, but couldn't bring it every day. And I imagine, Mike, that's how you feel when you see a guy who has a great practice one day and then has 4 straight terrible practices.
Yeah, and that's I just think that's ultimately what you're looking for. You're looking for really talented people who are also really motivated and have some sense of a growth mindset and understand what this challenge is in front of them of being a great college football player that'll lead them to become a great NFL player.
So I have a question, because you signed a quarterback named Brady Hart from Cocoa, Florida today. And up until recently, he was committed to Michigan, which is not unusual to flip a player, but he was committed to Michigan for 2026. How does the conversation go when there's a player considering reclassifying down a year and I'm coming to college now?
Yeah, I think the conversation always starts with them. I don't think we sought a kid out and asked him to reclassify. I think I feel the same way with mid-years. Like, if you try to move a kid's timeline, sometimes the kid's very uncomfortable. Even if you get it done and you get him, he's not quite convinced it's the right thing for him. So I think, the Hart family kind of had decided that they were ready to try to reclass. They had done all of the process and procedures for them. And I think there were a set of circumstances that got created that made it a really, really good fit for both parties. We had evaluated Brady early on, looking at him as a 26 quarterback. We always felt that he was a really talented player. He was a kid that we really liked. And, I think it just all lined up in the right time with, obviously what happened with Husan, what happened with Bryce Underwood. I think it all kind of came together the right way.
Mike, from a roster standpoint, back in maybe 5 years ago, if you had 2 really talented quarterbacks that you liked, you just pick the one that you think is going to help you win the game, in the moment or week by week, right? But now when players can leave, fairly easily, you also have to juggle the future of your roster, the numbers in the quarterback room, and maybe not just the quarterback position, any position. How much are you considering future roster numbers or things that you might have to do in the portal as a result of the decisions that you're making in season while you're making them?
Yeah, you don't want to. I think I owe it to the seniors in our program to make the decisions that are in the best interest of Texas A&M football's 2024 team winning as many games as possible. There are times obviously where those decisions, we know there's going to have an impact on those for the future, but I don't think I could look our kids in the eye if I wasn't doing what I felt was the absolute right thing to do for them to have the best year they could. And so that's kind of how we look at it. That's kind of how we focus on it. And, again, sometimes that puts you in a situation where you got to figure things out down the road, but then you got to figure things out down the road.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. I know it's a busy day today, and you get this class signed, and you're just probably moving right onto the portal come Monday. So good luck with that, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah,
thanks for being here, Mike.
Having me on, and appreciate all you do. And Ari, I can't believe it took you this long to get to your wife's alma mater for a game. So what?
She was actually kind of making fun of me about that, Coach. Like, she's like, we've been living, because I had moved to Dallas 3-4 years ago now, and for whatever reason, the first year was COVID, and then all the big games I was off in Tuscaloosa or somewhere else, and it just never happened.
Now I understand.
They're going to call the big games in Caulfield now.
Andy's interviewing Napier. I see where we stand.
Hey, did you see what you got to see? I don't know if you're a big social media guy, but I tweeted this. I think that I'm making my way around. I spent 10 years of my career in the Big Ten. Andy took me on a little SEC swing a few years ago. I will say this.
We taught him to be a yell leader.
We did. Yeah. We taught about to be a yell leader. I wrote a story for the front page of the New York Times about Sam Saul as a walk-on. You have I love Kyle Field.
Good.
Like, it's my favorite stadium that I've seen so far. Now I've got some places I've got to go still. Yeah. So I'm not going to give you the crown just yet, but that was insane.
I'm working hard to convert a few more media members to become Aggies. So you might be the
All right, give him a whoop.
Whoop. All right, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yep.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.